Good evening, everyone. I'm freshly bathed, I'm freshly shaved, and I'm bringing you a third installment of the low effort, lower budget NBP show. I'm bringing you this episode on the first day of week 3. Week 3, can you believe it? It seems like not long ago I was already talking about week 1. But we're going to jump right into this because there's been a lot of drama throughout the league and on the Blood Bowl pitch, not by the coaches, because there's been some shakeups. I know it was only week 1, but there's been a lot of shakeups. And in fact, we only have one team in the league that has 2 wins. A lot of draws last week, a lot of draws. So what I will do is I'll jump right into the division leaders. First off is Tar and Feather. Coach Shushnik with Night of the Living Dread is barely holding on to that spot by 1 point. 1 point. He has 3 points with a draw and a win, and that puts him in first place with the Badass Women's Association and the Gordia Bulldogs right behind him with both a win and a loss. Next up, in the Deep Dark division, we have a new leader. Coach Portbot was defeated, and he fell into second place. The first leader, according to the game, is Demented. Coach Demented, our 2-time champion, Season 2, Season 3. He took a managed draw last week, and that put him at the top of the division. But I would argue that Blue 6 Max, the coach lucky enough to defeat a sinking ship last week and bring his record to 1 win and 1 loss, is my pick of the leader of Deep Dark Division. According to the game, due to the managed draw, Demented is, but my pick, due to having played both his games, is Blue 6 Max for Deep Dark Division. And next up, we have the Saltworks Division, and last week we had a head-to-head matchup with Johnny and Midway, and they were both competing for first place. They squared off in week 2, and would you know it, they drew. In fact, everybody in Saltworks drew week 2. It was coming down to the wire. They were playing for coach of week 1 and coach of week 2, and they drew. So the official coach of week 1 is Johnny Mao. He was the leader of Saltworks, and he drew Midway. They split it right down the middle, though. There is no way to decide who is the actual leader of Saltworks because they both have the same amount of SPP. They both have 29 SPP. That's just nuts. I don't think we've ever had a draw that close. We have Coach Johnny Mao returning to former performances, the Johnny we've all known and missed, and he's right up there with Midway. And in fact, there's no division, there's nobody. I can't split it. There's no way I possibly can, because they both won week 1 and they drew this week, and they both have 29 points. So they both lead the Saltworks division. So that's the AFC. Moving over to the NFC, we have Ancient Empires. We have a new leader in the Ancient Empires. Coach Rocky is back with defending his week 1 title of Ancient Empires leader in week 2 against Commissioner Kamikoze, and he went down. Kamikoze came out and made a statement by hiring star player Chainsaw Player and injuring the Rat Ogre turn 1. Took him out of the play before he even got a chance to move. And he continued to pound those rats. Last year's finalist who lost to Coach Midway, he continued to pound them until he won a hearty 3-0 victory. And that puts him in the lead in the Ancient Empires division. Next, over in Beheaded Kings, we had Coach Pong Hines last week leading the division. And it's not much difference this week. Because Pong did draw, however, but the people behind him in his division did not gather enough points to topple his lead, and he leads the Beheaded Kings 2 weeks in a row. Third, we have the Old World. The Old World saw Coach Wheelie 365 leading last week after a big win. And he got a big win again in week 2. In fact, he's the first team of this season to gather 2 wins. A lot of teams don't even gather 2 wins in their career, and he's got it in 2 weeks with this team in this season. So that does it for NFC. So that brings us to AFC and NFC Coaches of the Week. There was a lot of deliberating between myself. I looked at the stats, looked at the games, and I almost wanted to give it to last week's winner, Johnny Mao, but he tied. And we had winners in that division. And since this is based on a week-to-week basis, I have to go with the winners. So out of the division conference, I should say, we had my team, Badass Women's Association, and we had Blue Six Max's team that won. And I have to give it to Blue Six Max. He has more SPP than I do, and he had a more quality win by defeating a division leader. So I have to give it to him week 2. Moving over to NFC. This was also a very close game. Pong could have been in the running. Pong Hines could have been in the runnings, winning Broken King, Beheaded Kings 2 times in a row. Definitely could have. But he drew. So I had to give it to a winner. Again, based on a weekly basis, not previous weeks. And I had to give it to Coach Kamikoze. And that's simply because he had the highest quality win. He toppled the former division leader and staked his claim as first place. Going into third place, he's going to have a tough matchup against an opponent, but I think that he's going to show why he made it to the playoffs last year with the Kislev team. Those Norse play very similar. He's got a good team behind him, and I think we may see him first place again going into intra-conference play. So that brings us to the news segment. I was going to do a player award this week. I looked into most violent, but there were so many draws, it just felt like, what's the point? So I looked into player of the week, and I found that in player of the week, most of the time, players who get the most SPP in a week are just the players that got the MVPs. And we steer those MVPs by selecting them. So I could go by just game stats, but, it's the low effort show, and there's no budget. So I just decided to throw that one out. That's probably not an award we'll do unless you guys want to vote on players of the week, maybe, in the forums or something in that matter. Maybe you want to nominate some players. I'll go in and vet their stats. We can look at it, and I can kind of see. But I'll bring you to this new segment we have. I know it's only week 2, but I'm going to do AFC top 5s and NFC top 5s. Just to kind of show you where things are at. So, leading the AFC with a win and a draw, we have Coach Shushnik with Night of the Living Dread at 31 SPP. In fact, he has some of the highest SPP in the league. There are a few more that have higher than him, but he's making headway there with that SPP gain. So then behind him, who also has a win and a draw, we actually have a tie for second place. I'm sure many of you are going to know who that is. We spoke because they even tied their own division. So, of course, they're going to tie second place in the conference. That's Johnny's Rottens and Zuruzuk Zelets. I probably pronounced that wrong. Sorry, I'm not very good at Chaos Dwarf Midway. But that's Johnny Mao and Midway at 29 SPP apiece, tied for second place in the AFC. Moving on to fourth place in the AFC. We have Coach Demented. Although he does have a win and a draw, one was a managed draw, he is still in fourth place in his division, or conference, I should say. And that is Coach Demented with Cannibal Corpse at 20 SPP. And in fact, he has the second lowest SPP in the league. He's tied. Getting those managed games is going to get you a little bit of a penalty there. It's understandable, but he's hardly in fourth place there. And I think he can hold that spot, if not climb. He's two-time champion, been in several champion ladder playoffs. So I think we'll see him thrive like he tends to always do in a Blood Bowl environment. And then we have a sinking ship in 5th place, coming off of their loss. They would be higher with a win or a draw, but alas, they're in 5th place, still holding strong with 35 total SPP. Second most SPP in the league, actually. Only one team has more SPP than they do. So that's your top 5 in the AFC. Moving over to NFC, we have a top 5 here as well. We have the first coach to get 2 wins this season. Boom Boom Shake the Room with Wheelie365 at a total of 35 SPP. He's tied with Bort for most SPP in the league. Very, very strong team, and we may see them go 3-0 this week. So we'll see. Next up, we have Lauren Rockets. Coach Pong Hines again finding his way into these recaps as much as possible. And he has the most SPP in the league. Those crafty Wood Elves have a total of 37 SPP and firmly holding on to second place in the NFC. Third, we have the Scarface Scavengers V2 by Legend T. They have 33 total SPP, putting them in 3rd place through the tiebreakers. 4th place, we have Ancient Empires leader, a coach I've mentioned before, our commissioner, Kamikoze, with his Norse team. I have it written on the card there, but it's really small. But they're a Norse team. Look them up. They're pretty awesome. I've got their SPP written there too, but it's also really small on the camera stand. I put it there instead of here, so I'm not looking down so much. But anyway, the 5th place is also going to go to the Rainforest Queens. That's Jonah, 2005 UK. He has a total of 24 SPP, and that firmly puts him in 5th place. Even though he did have a managed game, a managed draw, he still has managed to have a lot of SPP gain there, is holding strong. So that moves us to the final segment of the show. This is the relegation watch. As you all know, the last place in AFC and the last place in NFC at the end of the season is moved down into the proving grounds and replaced by the top 2 proving ground coaches. So what this means is 11th and 12th place are on the chopping block in each division, with 12th being the one that leaves and 11th always teetering on the edge, just very, very close there. So in the AFC, number 11 is Joe's Imagination. They have 21 total SPP. That's Coach Knockout Joe that coaches them, and they're in 11th place AFC. They're just holding on to the edge right in front of Glob in 12th place. The gorgeous ladies of Blood Bowl not finding their footing yet in week 2. Total 20 SPP, tied for lowest, second lowest, I should say, with 2 other teams. And that's they're coached by Rorik Dark. Okay, moving over to the NFC once again. We have the boys in 11th place. And they have 20 total SPP. Only 3 other teams have that amount of SPP. So moving on to 12th place, in danger of relegation there, we have the Grim Reaping Institute. That's Dr. J. Total SPP is 15. He has the Week 2 award for least amount of SPP. This is not set in stone, though. We have several weeks left in the season. So this could change. You never know. But just for fun and games, week 2, here it is. So that's pretty much all I have to cover this week. A lot of games coming up this week. Week 3 has some conference deciders for those intra-conference play and intra-divisional play and all that. You know, we've got a good week of Blood Bowl coming up. A very tense week of Blood Bowl, because this could be a major factor on who you play next week. It could determine the rest of your season, because as we know, in Blood Bowl, you're always one game away from disaster. So this could be the week that disaster strikes. Who knows? But thank you all for watching. I will shill at this moment about the YouTube things. If you have any suggestions for the show, guys, put them down in the comments. Player awards, anything I can make the show better. Anything I can do to make the show better. I'm trying to make the show not as long, not rambling as much, but I have a lot of info to cover, and I'm trying to cover it fast and accurate. So sometimes that may stretch out the show a little bit. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up. Let me know, kind of lets me know how many of you guys are actually watching the show and how many of you are enjoying it. But yeah, suggestions again in the comments. If you didn't see last week's episode, it's on the channel. I'll try to put the link in the description for that. And then also, I tend to record all of these in just one go. I don't edit clips. I just put the camera up, come around, and then record the show. So once again, this part may be edited out. This part may be not, just because of the way I do my editing on YouTube. So if there's any errors or anything, I try to just glance over them and correct them as I go, instead of being halfway through a show and then having to restart. So that's why there's little stutters and weird things like that. But that's part of being low effort and low budget, is we can get away with that. So thanks again for watching, guys, and let's have a great week through, everybody. Yeah.